Life can be chaotic. If you're running a retail business, don't let disorganized order fulfillment add to the chaos. Use ShipStation instead. With ShipStation, you never have to worry about shipping and fulfillment again. Whether you're running a business out of your garage or you have multiple warehouses, ShipStation is ideal for every phase of your business's growth. Save time with one login for all your stores and by automating repetitive tasks. Plus, you'll save money with the best shipping rates from global carriers. ShipStation's industry-leading features help you deliver a better customer experience. They'll get accurate and faster shipments along with automated tracking updates with your branding. And with up to 88% off UPS and USPS rates and up to 90% off FedEx rates, ShipStation is the fastest and most affordable way to ship. Calm the chaos. Switch to ShipStation today. Start a free trial at shipstation.com/audio. That's shipstation.com/audio.
Welcome to the VSiN Weekend Morning Line on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Hour number 3 of the VSiN Weekend Morning Line. I'm Tim Murray, live from the Circus Sportsbook in downtown Las Vegas. The NFL Draft has come and gone. We'll get the schedule released here in a little over 2 weeks. I tell you what, yesterday afternoon, I should say, watching the NFL Draft coverage, I think my guy Stuckey over at the Action Network tweeted this out. It got the juices flowing, man. It got me ready to start diving into the college football prep for this upcoming year. Watching MAC highlights, Mountain West highlights, seeing a bajillion Ohio State players get selected. 14 Ohio State players selected yesterday, or over the last 3 days, in the NFL Draft. So yeah, I'm about to dive into it. Can't wait. We did it. Was it last week or 2 weeks ago? I think it was 2 weeks ago. We jumped into my top 12 quarterbacks for this upcoming year. And I'm going to keep tweaking that list. But it's an intriguing year, no doubt, when it comes to college football. But we got a lot going on today, of course. 4 games on the ice, 4 games on the hardwood, full slate of Major League Baseball ahead of us. We're less than a week away from the Kentucky Derby. I know our guy Mike Somich is all fired up about that. So still a great time of year, man. And running through just our best bets a moment ago from Todd Furman, from Zach Cohen. As always, check our plays out over at vsin.com/picks. If you are a VSiN Pro subscriber, you can get selections there from that Killer Sports NBA Hoops Challenge, which I think those picks are now being sent out there. And I'll just give you a couple. Not give away the house, but how about a bet from Steve Fezzik, who is going to be taking the points with the Los Angeles Lakers. Both Steve Fezzik and Mitch Moss took 3.5. Now, it's for the contest, right? Sometimes you're playing stale numbers, so it might be a little bit gamesmanship, but Mitch and Steve Fezzik both in on the Los Angeles Lakers in the Killer Sports NBA Playoff Challenge, as is Aaron Renning. So a couple of plays there on the Los Angeles Lakers, but at a better number than what is out there in the market. So sometimes when you're in these competitions, it's a little gamesmanship, right? You get an opportunity at a stale number, you grab that number there. So Lakers and T-Wolves should be a fun one coming up later on this afternoon. We will have more of that with Mike Somich and Matt Brown with Ready, Set, Bet. But I did want to circle back a little bit to the draft that is all complete, and I've had some thoughts on it. A couple of long shot bets for me. I did throw in a Caleb Johnson to win Offensive Rookie of the Year at 50-1. And it's funny because we had Buck Rising on to start the show in hour number 1. Buck Rising covers the Tennessee Titans down there in Nashville for 104.5 The Zone. And he put out a tweet after he jumped on the program saying that I mentioned to him that there has been I can't remember a number 1 overall pick being a quarterback and getting less buzz than Cam Ward. And he joked, "Welcome to the Tennessee Titans." So he's not surprised by it from a national narrative discussion. But what has obviously dominated the draft coverage, Travis Hunter going to the Jacksonville Jaguars, which, to be honest, I don't think we've talked about enough. And Shedeur Sanders ultimately landing yesterday with the Cleveland Browns. And as I said to Jonathan Peterlin in the first hour of the show, if they didn't make the selection at 94 of Dylan Gabriel, I would be standing up applauding this pick of Shedeur Sanders at 144. I think this would be a tremendous value. And I still do think it is. And there's something to be said about drafting multiple quarterbacks when you've got an uncertain room. One of these quarterbacks could hit. So you're going to put him through a competition and see how it ultimately plays out. Now, it's not the same thing, but I do remember back in 2012, Washington spent the second overall pick on RG3. Fourth round, they got Kirk Cousins. Year one was dynamite for RG3. The rest of it was a disaster. And Kirk Cousins was a tremendous insurance policy, ended up being a quality starter there for Washington. That's not the same situation here. You've got a third round pick in Dylan Gabriel, fifth round pick in Shedeur Sanders. Not the same thing. But when you look at that quarterback room, would you be shocked if Shedeur Sanders won the job? I would not. But he's not the betting favorite, obviously, to win that job. So when I look at the betting market, he's going to be overvalued. You're going to hear the amount of Shedeur Sanders tickets that are going to be placed on him to win Offensive Rookie of the Year in that 25-1 range. I would be much more inclined to bet someone like Tyler Shuck at 20-1 or further than Shedeur Sanders, because you look at that quarterback room in New Orleans, if this Derek Carr shoulder thing is real, Tyler Shuck, who's 100 years old, has got an opportunity to win that job out of camp. Now, do you trust the weapons around him in New Orleans to get it done? But got an offensive-minded head coach in Kellen Moore. I think Tyler Shuck is more appealing to me, even though he's not going to get nearly the buzz that Shedeur will get as a possible Offensive Rookie of the Year candidate. But circling back to Cleveland and how this thing all played out. Friday night, pick 94, they go Dylan Gabriel. Very surprising pick. I don't want to say dumb, but head-scratching, to say the least. And then they trade up back to 144 to get Shedeur Sanders. Andrew Berry is the GM of the Cleveland Browns, and here was him yesterday on the decision to grab Shedeur Sanders at 144.
Shedeur, we talk oftentimes about quarterback being the most important position in the sport. We obviously spent a lot of time with Shedeur throughout the process. He's highly accurate, can play well from the pocket, very productive college career. And, we felt like it wasn't necessarily the plan going into the weekend to select two quarterbacks, but as we talk about, we do believe in best player available. We do believe in positional value, and we didn't necessarily expect him to be available in the fifth round. And so we love adding competition to every position room, and adding him to compete with the guys that are already in there. We felt like that was the appropriate thing to do.
Overall, I'll say this: I didn't hate the Cleveland Browns draft. Trading out of 2 to 5, and as Jonathan Peterlin mentioned, that was not one that was overwhelmingly applauded in the land. But to get Mason Graham, who will be a plug-and-play starter on the defensive line, to get another offensive weapon early in the second round with the pick they acquired from the Jacksonville Jaguars at 36 and Quinshon Judkins, to get Carson Schlesinger, who seems to be, he was a riser in the draft process, starter at linebacker. Harold Fannin, going to be a guy that all of us will talk about, probably from a fantasy standpoint, maybe some production there. I look at this draft and this haul for the Cleveland Browns, knowing how strong this defense has been over the years, some of the unique weapons they brought in from an offensive standpoint. They also added Dylan Sampson out of Tennessee. And now you've got a quarterback room where, could it be a disaster? Maybe. But the question I'm pondering, and I don't know the answer to, the question I'm pondering was, is this a humbling experience for Shedeur? Right? You heard some of the reports that maybe didn't take the process all that seriously. Some of these interviews didn't go that well. So does he walk in with a different mindset? I don't know the answer to that. I mean, from a skill set standpoint, look, I like Dylan Gabriel. But from a skill set standpoint, when you think about Kevin Stefanski's offense and some of the quarterbacks that have thrived in it, Case Keenum and Kirk Cousins, I said all along, I thought Shedeur Sanders, from a skill set standpoint, nothing about personality, but from a skill set standpoint, I thought he reminded me a bit of Kirk Cousins, right? Precision passing, tough as hell, super smart, and now an opportunity there for him. But that all being said, when I look at Offensive Rookie of the Year markets and I see Shedeur Sanders going to be insanely overvalued at around 25-1, where he walks in right now, not saying he's going to end this way, but right now he walks in as what? 4th on the depth chart? Now, does he beat out Dylan Gabriel? Certainly is possible. Jonathan Peterlin seemed to indicate that he felt like Kenny Pickett might not be on this roster starting the season. But I look at Tyler Shuck, and everything you hear about Tyler Shuck, the injuries aren't ones that seem, they're more of the broken bone variety, not ones that would deem you injury prone, right? No soft tissue type of things. And I think, I'm going to pull it up right now. I think Stormy even tweeted out something to the effect regarding a Tyler Shuck. But, for Tyler Shuck sitting there with the New Orleans Saints at 40, a veteran dude, played a ton of football, dealt with injuries. He played some of his best football this year in Jeff Brom's system at Louisville. And this is the tweet from Stormy, and this is a really good point. She said, prior to this year, Tyler Shuck had never played more than 7 games in a single season. Broken collarbone in 2021, re-injured in 2022, and then broke his leg in 23 when he was at Texas Tech. Some freak accidents, but told me earlier this year, this Stormy, how much more mentally strong it made him, should have the opportunity in New Orleans if he stays healthy. I think Tyler Shuck's one to kind of keep an eye on there in that Offensive Rookie of the Year market, where obviously the rightful favorites are Ashton Genty and Ward. But Tyler Shuck seems like he's going to have a legitimate shot to win this job down in camp. So while there's going to be a lot of focus, understandably so, about maybe Shedeur winning the job, and I think a good fit for him in Cleveland, if Tyler Shuck is the guy, you get a day one starter at 20-1 with an offensive-minded head coach in Kellen Moore. Certainly an interesting look, right? With Tyler Shuck. Also an interesting look is this deal from Circa. $400 all in, 2-night stay at Circa. $100 dining credit, $100 beverage credit, a day bed at Stadium Swim. $400 resort fees and taxes included, May 26th through September 4th. It's called the Summer Package, and it's at circalasvegas.com.
People depend on e-commerce businesses, and many use ShipStation to manage their shipping. Last year, over 700 million shipping labels were printed by businesses using ShipStation. If you run a business that ships a lot of packages, save and get up to 90% off carrier rates with ShipStation. Go to ShipStation.com/program to sign up for your free trial. No credit card required, and you can cancel anytime. That's ShipStation.com/program.
You're tuned in to the VSiN Weekend Morning Line.
Keep it rolling here on a Sunday morning. It is the VSiN Weekend Morning Line. I'm Tim Murray, live from the Circa Sportsbook in downtown Las Vegas. We're going to talk more NFL draft with my guy Thor Nystrom coming up at the bottom of the hour. But also my guy, the one and only Patrick Everson, joins us right now. I learned something just a moment ago. I was inaccurate on my assumption. And you know what they say about assuming. You shouldn't do it. And it makes something about you and me. I thought you would have been like first in line to be at this AC/DC concert last night, but apparently I was way off, and you're not a big AC/DC guy. So my apologies for assuming that Patrick Everson would be an AC/DC guy.
Nah, it's all right. Look, I got my wife was an 80s hair metal. Is. I mean, she still is. She was an 80s hair metal type. And a lot of my friends were at last night's show. Matt Jacob was definitely at last night's show. So, look, it's not a surprise, but I'm more, like I said, I'm more of an 80s I'm a U2 guy, and I'm an 80s new wave guy. So
Okay.
if it had been The Cure, yeah, I would have been there with bells on.
All right. So we figured that out. We got that out of the side. Patrick _Vegas is where you can follow him on social media, as I do. And, Patrick, we just had the NFL draft. Obviously, a lot of curiosity regarding Shedeur Sanders, where he would ultimately land. I had a couple of, as you would call, Chili's plays on some landing spots that did not pan out. I had Pittsburgh. I had Las Vegas. Ultimately, he goes to Cleveland. Look, what have you heard from the folks from behind the counter on not only Shedeur, but this draft in totality? We know normally the draft is a losing proposition for sportsbooks. Was this one different?
I don't think it was much different, except maybe the losses were mitigated a little bit more. In talking, and most of the activity, especially here in Nevada, pretty much all the activity is on round one. And all those numbers, as you know, as you've probably discussed with your listeners many times, all those numbers came off the board, basically late Wednesday afternoon here, early Wednesday evening here. So 24 hours before the draft, which is unfortunate. It'd be nice if they could change that up. But regardless, even across the country, most of the activity is going to be on that first round. And what I heard from Jeff Benson behind the counter at Circa Sports on the first round was the Sharps won again, but he said it was just a small loser for the book. But he did say he was actually a little disappointed with how Circa finished. He felt it seemed like he felt that Circa booked this even better than it had in previous years, and he felt like maybe they would get out with a break even or maybe even a small win. He felt a little more confident this year than in past years. But that said, I don't think he's surprised, nor is anybody else, that this is a super sharp market. It's all on information, and that's the one thing I heard stressed, whether it was from Jeff Benson at Circa or Joey Fiesel at Caesar Sports, Chris Andrews at South Point, which did not book this year. He said in a great piece that our friend Sam Peniadovich wrote for Fox Sports that he was just glad to be out of it. Doesn't want to bother with it. It's too much information-based stuff, and it's all a matter who gets the information first. But getting back to your original question, small loser at Caesars, small loser at Circa. I did talk with BetMGM, and they seem to think they did all right to it. They weren't, they did really good on Genty not going in the top five, dipping to that 6th spot. So that was a pretty key position for them. So I think there was just some give and take, but generally speaking, the books are kind of resigned to being at least a small loser on this. And that's all they're trying to do. They're just hoping, hey, if we're a small loser, it's almost a win. Although, again, I will say that Jeff Benson down there at Circa right behind you, was a little disappointed that they didn't do a little better.
Yeah, it was funny. I was talking to Derek Stevens as we were wrapping up the first round. I came off the air. I was hanging out in his spot, and, we were just talking about, win, lose, and it wasn't going to be a disaster, as you pointed out. But I'll say this, and I'm this is me guessing, but it almost feels like for Jeff Benson and company, the odds makers here at Circa, it's almost becoming a game. Like, hey, we know we're not going to book a lot. Let's just beat them. Let's try to beat them. And as you mentioned, a small loser there for Circa. All right, let's get into what we saw last night, because I know you're a Nugget guy. You're a Denver native, and I can only imagine what you were doing as Aaron Gordon dunked that home with 1/10 of a second to go. It was happy moments for you, I'm sure. Was it happy moments for sports books that the Nuggets won 101-99 over the Clippers last night?
Well, again, it's another situation where I think it was a bit of a mixed bag. But the first thing I did was scare the living hell out of my dogs. That was especially Blossom. When I get uptight or excited about a sports event, she just starts barking like crazy, doesn't know what's going on, and she gets all frustrated. But no, the first thing I did was text Scott Shelton at BetMGM Nevada, because I was curious. There's a result there, right there. I mean, it's obviously a bang bang play, and I said, how'd you do to that Nuggets finish? That was crazy. And he texted me back. He said, not good. Took a 6-figure wager on the under. so they got beat there. They were, exactly. They were rooting for overtime, which is where, as we all like to say, the unders go to die. So that wasn't necessarily a good outcome there, but I think they the way this series has been bet, the Clippers have been kind of a trendy, I wouldn't even call them an underdog. I mean, they've been the favorite much of this series. So I think they don't mind at least the Nuggets stretching it out, making it more of a series. The Clippers could be a little bit of a problem, down the road. But there are other teams that they're more concerned about than whichever team comes out of that series.
Talking once again to our good friend Patrick Everson, getting the latest from behind the counter, courtesy of his great insight over at VegasInsider.com. Patrick, let's look ahead to today. We live in a Lakers town, right? If you talk to our friend Chuck Esposito, obviously it'll be, I would imagine, a very popular bet today, Lakers. Now, nationally, maybe things change a little bit, even though the Lakers obviously are very polarizing. You get the zigzag thought process, right? And that's where my guess would be, before I get the insight from you, that sportsbooks will be certainly cheering for the T-Wolves today. What have we heard about Lakers and Timberwolves this afternoon?
Right. They're going to be rooting for the Timberwolves to go as far as the Timberwolves would like to go, and for the Lakers and the Warriors and others to get out of the way if they can. Scott Shelton had a great line about this last week. He said, we love the Lakers for the handle that they bring in from game to game, but honestly, you don't want to play with fire. You'd like to get them out of there. That's the case nationally for BetMGM, and I'm sure others as well. The Lakers have been a popular team this year. The trade for Luka was hugely popular. That got a lot more people engaged. But as far as today's game itself, yes, they're definitely on the Lakers. Looking at some numbers from BetMGM this morning here in Vegas, early afternoon on the East Coast, and it's about 2 on the spread. It's about 2-1 tickets and money, but where bettors are leaning into the Lakers a little bit more. To your point, Tim, about the whole zigzag thing, is the Lakers money line. You get a plus number, and you get a plus in front of the numbers on the Lakers, and you're going to get more activity there. And it's about 3-1 tickets and 2-1 money at BetMGM on the money line on the Lakers. So they're looking at the Lakers in all ways. And honestly, if we extrapolate that a little bit further and go down to the series handle, Tim, and this is nationally at BetMGM, national digital. It doesn't include retail. This is we're talking mobile and online betting, but that is the overwhelming majority of the bets that are taken now. In that series, 70% of bets, 90% of money coming in on the LA Lakers at BetMGM nationwide.
Patrick Everson giving us the latest from around Vegas as well as nationally from sportsbooks. So there are 3 other games. We've got the Knicks and Lions. We got football on the mind here, Patrick. Knicks and Pistons. We got Celtics, Magic, Pacers, and Bucks. Anything notable from the other 3 games in the NBA today?
I'm just looking over some numbers, like I said, that I got from BetMGM. Really good 2-way on the spread for the Pistons-Knicks series, indicative of a short line and certainly a competitive series as well. Obviously, the Pistons are going to need that one. And it's 2-way on the money. It's a short spread. It's 2-way on the spread. It's 2-way on the money line. Celtics, Magic. This won't really shock you, but it's just overwhelming. It's all Celtics. Yep. And again, these are numbers from BetMGM nationally. 87% of spread bets, 97% of spread dollars coming in on Boston to bounce back from that from the loss a couple nights ago and get the win at Orlando. And they're even on straight bets anyway. These are stats, by the way, that are on straight bets. This doesn't include parlays and so forth. But they're even laying the minus 275, minus 300 or so with the Celtics at BetMGM. 3-1 tickets, 9-1 money. So that's pretty overwhelming. I don't know if there's, the Pacers Bucks series, I don't think is firing the imagination the way, say, the Lakers series is, and certainly, and so forth. But, pretty good 2-way tickets on that game for this evening. But the money at BetMGM on the spread is pretty solidly on the Bucks tonight.
He is Patrick Everson, not an AC/DC fan, but a fan of music nonetheless. Patrick,
I respect the craft from AC/DC. Those guys are talented as hell. To still be doing it, unbelievable. But yeah, I'm more. If that was a huge new wave festival last night, yes, I would have been first in line.
Patrick, you're the best. Appreciate your insight as always. There he is, courtesy of our progressive guest line. Hey, just a reminder, we've got our summer special, going on over at VSiN.com. You get everything we have as a VSiN Pro subscriber for just $59 all the way through August 1st. VSiN.com/subscribe.
You're tuned in to the VSiN Weekend Morning Line.
Yes, indeed, we keep it rolling. It is a Sunday morning post-draft. I am Tim Murray, live from the Circus Sportsbook in downtown Las Vegas. I told you it's the call before the storm. I'm starting to see them starting to file in. Got a big crew down here drinking some espresso martinis. Looks like they're going to sit in for the long haul with 4 games on the ice and 4 games on the hardwood. We'll recap some best bets before we get on out of here, but I knew I had to get him on, and I'm appreciative of him jumping on. It's his favorite time of the year. It is our guy, Thor Nystrom, who joins us right now. FantasyLife.com, at ThorKU there on Twitter. He's got his draft grades out. I don't do draft grades, but I love Thor's grades because he's hard, man. He's a tough professor out there. He'll give you your proper due, but he'll also throw you under the bus. So, Thor, appreciate it, sir. We got to start with Cleveland, because that's obviously the big story. It's crazy that they are, and we're talking so much about a 5th round pick, but I've talked about it a bunch here in this spot. What did you make of the overall haul? Yes, Dylan Gabriel 3rd round, Shedeur in the 5th, but you get Quinshon Judkins, you get Harold Fannin Jr., you trade back and you get Mason Graham, you get a first next year. What did you make of what Andrew Berry and company did these past 3 days?
Right before we got on live here, I was telling Tim about my tradition of watching the movie Draft Day the night before the draft, that Kevin Costner movie where he plays Sonny Weaver Jr. And I thought Andrew Berry did they're in real life Browns GM, that he channeled his Sonny Weaver Jr. in this draft class. The trade out of the 2 slot was shocking, and in the moment I hated it. But did not disagree with the prospect that they took at 5. Then it was the weird decision of Gabriel over Shedeur in round 3 that I also hated in the moment. And then 2 rounds later, they come in and they grab Shedeur. The overall, you just look at the overall class. I couldn't help but tip my hat to it. They brought in a ton of talent. They brought in talent at positions of need. And then you also now have Jacksonville's round 1 pick next year. And there's no guarantee that Jacksonville is going to catapult into being a contender next year, the first year with that staff. So I thought that was all pretty well done. You have a coaching staff and a front office that are on hot seats, but I thought they did the best that they could there. Will they get through to be able to use that 1st round pick from Jacksonville and have those 2 next year in next year's process? We'll have to see, but I did appreciate what they did in the draft. Thor
Nystrom joining us here, recapping the draft. What do you make of the fit of Shedeur with Kevin Stefanski? We've been talking about it a lot. Look, I'm not telling you to bet a 25-1 offensive rookie of the year ticket. We're going to get, Patrick Everson's going to be telling us how much people are betting that. I'm not saying to do that, but ultimately, as crazy as this whole process played out, I like the fit for him there. He's a precision passer. He's not big armed, and that kind of fits what Stefanski wants to do from an offensive standpoint.
Honestly, what happened over the weekend with him, I don't think it was fair, but it absolutely might have been the best thing to ever happen to him, because the thing that teams were afraid of, based on his interviews, some of the public comments, these sorts of things, was he's going to come in here as the 1st round pick, and then he's going to think that he is in charge, and it's my culture and all this and that. There will be none of that as a 5th round pick. If there is, the NFL has told him, if you come in defiant, you're going to be out of the NFL real quick. That message was sent loud and clear. But if he comes in with his head down, humbled, that he knows he's down there on the depth chart, has to work his way up, and he just gets to work. He is the most gifted quarterback on that roster. I don't think it's close. If he has the right attitude, yes, he is a great fit for Stefanski's system, right? There's a lot of the short and intermediate timing concepts. Shedeur Sanders really good with that. Accuracy and placement were best in this class. And I think Stefanski can work with him. The question was Shadeur's personality and the Deion Sanders stuff, but I think Deion knows as well. He got a message as well from the NFL over the weekend as far as what they think about him publicly making opinions about his son and et cetera. So, I think it's a good situation for Shedeur.
Thor Nystrom joining us here, breaking down the NFL draft. His draft grades, are up. You can see him on his Twitter feed at ThorKU, FantasyLife.com. The betting market on Wednesday night had Shedeur as a pretty decent favorite to be the second quarterback selected. On Thursday, draft day, we saw the shift that Jackson Dart moved into that favorite role, and ultimately the market was accurate as Dart goes to the New York Giants at 25. They still take Abdul Carter at 3. I think Abdul Carter, I don't evaluate players. I just know from what I watched watching college ball, I thought he was the best player in this draft, pound for pound. I think he's going to be phenomenal there with the Giants. They still get Jackson Dart. They go out to get Darius Alexander, the D tackle from Toledo. And then I was on the air yesterday when they drafted Cam Scatabo out of Arizona State. So the Giants, I think you like their haul as well. They get Dart. They get Abdul Carter. They got some other really intriguing pieces. What did you make of what the G-men did?
You know, every year when I do my draft grades, like the way that I start it is I have this ROI formula that I have. I assign point slots or values to, you know, all the 257 slots in the draft. And then subsequently to those players as they are ranked on my board. And I end up getting like, you know, so how much equity did you spend? How much talent you acquire? What was your ROI? That's sort of how I start the process. And then I start getting into the context when I modulate them up and down. Anyway, when I resort the ROI column at the end, I never know how it's going to order, you know, any given class right after the draft is ended. But I always see the same teams at the top. You know, it's the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Ravens, almost every single year. This year, I was stunned to see as I hit that button to reorder it, the New York Giants at the very top. They got one of my 2 A+. This administration that is justifiably on the hot seat. I have disagreed with most of the way that they have run the team as far as past drafts, as far as free agency, as far as treetop organizational things. They smashed this one. They needed it, and they got it. It started with the correct decision to take Abdul Carter. I'm curious the trade offers that they got for that, and I am also curious if they will now trade Kayvon Thibodeau. But either way, sticking and picking the other non-elite prospect in this class outside of Travis Hunter. I mean, either way, you have the guy, whoever you have 1 and 2. I think we can all agree those were the 2 elite prospects in this class. So you get him, you stay in your slot. And then after that, they gave up. It was an acceptable price point to move up for Jackson Dart. And it turns out that by the end of the process, most of the teams had Jackson Dart QB2. So I think it was reasonable to assume they would have gotten hopped in line had they not done that trade. They stole Darius Alexander after that. I couldn't believe in an environment where all the interior defensive linemen were getting pulled up. Probably most egregiously was Tyleik Williams, late first round, gets pulled up like a round. But in this environment, a bunch of them are getting pulled up. And then Darius Alexander, he was like the one exception. He was like a guy who kept falling down, and I did not have an explanation as to why the value, particularly in the environment that we were in, was incredible there. Cam Scatabo, I thought that was a solid value as well. I thought he was going to go second half of the 3rd round. They ended up getting him at the top of the 4th. Marcus Mboa, the kid from Purdue, I thought that was really good value. I saw him as a late 2nd, early 3rd round type guy. They get him later on in day 3. I love So anyway, there was a whole bunch of them that I just really liked.
Thor Nystrom once again helping us recap the draft. All right, these listeners of this program are getting tired of me talk about it, but I'm going to mention it again. So I had a ticket on Shedeur to land at the Steelers at plus 650. He doesn't go in the first round. Okay. As Friday night is unfolding, 83 is getting closer and closer. And I'm sitting next to my wife and she's like, what are you doing? Why are you so intrigued by the Pittsburgh Steelers and Shedeur Sanders? I'm like, I got this bet. And then 83 rolls around and they take Caleb Johnson out of Iowa. So initially I'm disappointed. And then the more I think about it, Thor, I go, holy smokes, I love this pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And subsequently, I have bet Caleb Johnson at 50-1 to an Offensive Rookie of the Year. What do you make of Pittsburgh's haul? And do you think Johnson fits their system immediately there in the Steel City? Caleb Johnson, 50-1 to win Rookie of the Year? Yes, sir. I might have to wet my beak. We might have to find a book on that one. Yeah, that's a very good value bet. I really like that. And yeah, you first in the first round, you know, they prioritized the interior defensive line because they got the top 4 consensus ones. It dropped off, you know, a bit after that. I thought that was the correct decision. And then Caleb Johnson in round 2, like you mentioned, Caleb Johnson, he got nitpicked like crazy because of the 4.57 40. But his high-end speed is awesome. It's 22 miles per hour and utterly elite for a 225-pound back. It's the acceleration, 7th percentile, 10-yard split with Caleb Johnson that you know, tells the story of why it's the 4.57. But the way that he runs the outside zone concepts, he manipulates the defenders down where they have to choose their gap before
he chooses his hole. And because of that, he gets more wide open holes to run through. That is the runway where Caleb Johnson gets up and accesses his top speed. At that point, you have a 225-pound locomotive running as fast as your cornerbacks out there, and you got a problem. At that point, the speed to power conversion, there is a reason that he was one of the NCAA's top runners last year in breakaway runs, breakaway yards. It's because of that, and it evokes. It's so interesting. Caleb Johnson, a guy who admires greatly Le'Veon Bell, he is now going, of course, to the same city and playing an analogous system that allowed Le'Veon Bell to overcome, the thing he got nitpicked for in his process, which is the same thing. It was the speed. And we've seen that happen with Arian Foster and time again in the past. That is the kind of back Caleb Johnson is. He will be a star in the NFL.
All right, Thor's going to hang out with us for a little bit more on the other side. We appreciate his insight because Professor Nystrom was not just giving out A's left and right. So we'll get into some of the F's that he threw out there. Just a reminder, we've got that summer special going on over at VSiN.com. Check it out. $59. You get everything we have to offer through August 1st. More NFL Draft Recap with Thor Nystrom. Next, it is VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Life can be chaotic. If you're running a retail business, don't let disorganized order fulfillment add to the chaos. Use ShipStation instead. With ShipStation, you never have to worry about shipping and fulfillment again. Whether you're running a business out of your garage or you have multiple warehouses, ShipStation is ideal for every phase of your business's growth. Save time with one login for all your stores and by automating repetitive tasks. Plus, you'll save money with the best shipping rates from global carriers. ShipStation's industry-leading features help you deliver a better customer experience. They'll get accurate and faster shipments along with automated tracking updates with your branding. And with up to 88% off UPS and USPS rates and up to 90% off FedEx rates, ShipStation is the fastest and most affordable way to ship. Calm the chaos. Switch to ShipStation today. Start a free trial at shipstation.com/audio. That's shipstation.com/audio.
You're tuned in to the VSiN Weekend Morning Line.
We keep it rolling. It is the VSiN Weekend Morning Line. I'm your host, Tim Murray, putting a bow on the show. We've got Ready, Set, Bet coming up top of the hour with Matt Brown and Mike Somich. My guy, Thor Nystrom, kind enough to hang out for a couple more minutes. He's got his draft grades out. You can follow him on Twitter at ThorKU. He joins us courtesy of our progressive guest line. And Thor, we were talking off air. We were just gushing over Caleb Johnson and a long shot opportunity. I bet him 50-1 to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. Another running back that I want to get your perspective on is RJ Harvey to Denver. And before we get your analysis on it, here was Sean Payton yesterday, head coach of the Denver Broncos, regarding the selection of RJ Harvey after they realized they would not be able to trade up to get Ashton Jeanty.
He was, in the early part of this process, man, everyone had seen the skill set of Jeanty, and he's a fabulous player. And then you're, all right, if that's unrealistic, which obviously where he was selected, everyone knew we were hoping to get it back. Man, where are we falling in love with somebody? And you really try to just go through each one with an open mind. And I can remember the afternoon. I can't remember what afternoon, but I can remember the 2 hours on this player. And then it was like, all right, be quiet.
All right, be quiet. Don't tell anyone. We're good. This is our guy. So they get RJ Harvey out of UCF in the second round. What do you make of this fit in Denver? We thought it might be Ashton Jeanty if they were ultra aggressive. They land on RJ Harvey. And once again, you and I were talking about it, 50-1 for RJ Harvey to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. What do you think of his fit in Denver?
Yeah, that's a tremendous value as well. Very, very good value. And wheels up for RJ Harvey. What a landing spot and a perfect fit for his skill set. Home run hitter in a bowling ball build with RJ Harvey of the 4.4 flat speed. And then that bowling ball build, he has like this darty agility between the tackles. He's a former quarterback, funny enough. He's only 5'7.5", but he went to Virginia as a dual threat quarterback and spent a year there prior to transferring to UCF. And he had a couple injuries when he was converting to running back those first couple of years. That's why it took him a little bit longer. But last 2 years, Tim, as you know, one of the best running backs that we had in America in Gus Malzahn's system, certainly right up there in terms of the most explosive. I comp him to Tajay Spears because in the open field, that angle of racing speed and the movement evokes Spears for me. Harvey is a better, a better receiver.
Uh-oh. Let's let Thor clear his throat here. We'll pot him down here for just a moment.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
I was just going to say a better receiver, and that was something that RJ, and sorry for my vocal cord issues there. We've been talking a lot, the live shows this weekend, but RJ Harvey was talking to me at the Senior Bowl about how UCF did not use him as a receiver beyond the line of scrimmage or as dynamically as he would have liked. He still was one of two backs in this class that have 1.25 yards per route run or more each of the last 2 years. Denver, playing in the Sean Payton system, loved throwing to the backs. Bo Nix loves throwing to backs, as you know, as well, Tim. RJ Harvey just died and went to heaven. His whole skill set is going to get used with Denver. And, yeah, he has a shot for Offensive Rookie of the Year for sure.
All right, I'm all fired up. All right, Thor, you're busy. I want to get one negative morsel out of you because, as I mentioned, you're a hard grader. Professor Nystrom isn't just handing out A's to everybody. There's some F's out there. So give us one or two drafts that you despised.
I despise I've despised this team's drafts before, and they have gotten the last laugh most of the times. So I'm going to give them another shot to get the last laugh on me. The Detroit Lions. I gave their draft class enough. I thought Tyleik Williams late first round. I thought that was the most shocking pick of the first round. I thought they reached on day 2 a little bit, even though one of the guys they got was actually one of my favorite sleepers in the class, Isaac Tesla, the big slot from Arkansas, who I ranked higher than dang near anyone in the media. Brad Holmes he pulled him up a round above where I had him. I just thought in the slots that they were in, I saw some reaching, but again, the Lions see the draft different than other folks. They don't care what other boards are, certainly what the media boards are. They deviate a lot and they've gotten poorly graded. Some of these classes where they built up the current roster that they have. So they could certainly prove me wrong, but I didn't like what they did in the moment.
You can read his breakdowns over at fantasylife.com. You can follow him on Twitter at ThorKU. We could do this all day long. Unfortunately, you're busy and you got other hits to do. So I appreciate you hanging out for a couple of segments here, Thor.
Appreciate you, Tim. I'm going to go tend to those vocal cords.
There you go. Get that hot tea on those vocal cords. Thor doing the work there. All right. I feel good. 2 long shot bets on the Offensive Rookie of the Year market, and just place that one. RJ Harvey 50-1 and Caleb Johnson 50-1. So both of those available right now at FanDuel. Maybe we'll get better numbers, but a couple once again to invoke the saying that is trademarked by Patrick Everson, a little Chili's money. We're in on both RJ Harvey now in Denver, and we're in on Caleb Johnson in Pittsburgh because look, can Cam Ward and or Ashton Jeanty live up to the expectations? Absolutely. I think I'm a little bit, I don't want to say bullish, but I'm more intrigued, excited, I guess, by Cam Ward. But you hear from Buck Rising in hour 1, and I asked him about the win total of 5.5. Guy who covers the team didn't seem ultra optimistic of what this team's going to be. Felt like it was one of the least talented teams in the NFL. Wins and losses doesn't really matter for Offensive Rookie of the Year. But that being said, Cam Ward, a guy who can turn the ball over, as we saw a handful of times, whether it was at Washington State or Miami. Ridiculous playmaker. Betting against him was never fun. Ask anyone who's a Cal fan. Are there any Cal football fans? I don't even know if those exist. Jaden Ott now is going to be in Oklahoma. Fernando Mendoza is hanging out with Wes Reynolds up there in Bloomington as well. But regardless, no need to take unnecessary shots at the Cal football program. I was looking for some long shots, and Tyler Shuck, 20-1, maybe. Let's see how camp plays out. Is he going to be the starter? Shador, 25-1, no thanks. 2 running backs that I think are probably going to be the dudes. Caleb Johnson in Pittsburgh, 50-1. I think he'll be the day 1 starter there. Does Aaron Rodgers going to Pittsburgh help or hurt this? It's a good question. I still think they'll run the football, even if it's Aaron Rodgers at his age. And then RJ Harvey, you heard from Sean Payton. Bo Nix getting his mainstay guy, the 2nd round pick on him. So 2 long shots. Hey, that's why they're called long shots. So 2 50-1 shots there for me on Offensive Rookie of the year. All right, as for today, the Washington Capitals were a best bet from Todd Furman earlier on in the show, so that is the way Todd is rolling. I like to see the betting market going with me here. I took some Boston, laid the 6.5 earlier late last night. It is now up to 7.5. Me and Zach Cohen going head-to-head there, a little battle. He is going to take the points with the Orlando Magic. I think Boston, look, you heard it from Patrick Everson. I read you the betting splits. I don't really like to be on that particular side, right? The public side, but it feels like that's the way it is rolling. But I did lay it with Boston, not at 7.5. Let's see. If you haven't gotten it yet, maybe you get off to a sluggish start there with the Boston Celtics tonight. The one game I keep staring at, and I think I'll ultimately pass, is Indiana and Milwaukee. That was one where I was curious about how it would ultimately, be bet, and it feels like maybe it's a little bit of a public dog situation. By the way, over at VSiN.com, if you're a VSiN Pro subscriber, the Killer Sports NBA Playoff Challenge, the bets are in for today. And looking at Doug Kazarian did lay the chalk with the Celtics, as well as take the under in the Celtics Magic game as well. What was interesting to note now is a lot of it was, I imagine, betting the number, but Aaron Renning, Steve Fezzik, and Mitch Moss all taking the points with the Los Angeles Lakers today, and that number sits at 2.5 across the market right now. Minnesota hosting the Los Angeles Lakers this afternoon. Detroit out to a 2.5-point favorite at a couple of shops here at Circa. It remains at 2. So it should be a fun day on both the ice and the hardwood. 4 playoff games in both the Stanley Cup playoffs as well as the NBA postseason. All right, that's going to do it for our show. Coming up next, we've got Ready, Set, Bet. We've got Matt Brown and Mike Somich standing by. I'm sure Mike Somich is fired up. We are a week out from the Kentucky Derby. Then we'll have 7 hours of live Bet Sunday before you wrap up the day with cashing out at 11 p.m. Eastern time. We've had a great show. We appreciate all the help from everyone behind the scenes. Chris Wando, the producer of this program, and everyone out there as well, helping us behind the glass. And thanks to everyone who joined the show. Buck Rising, Jonathan Peterlin, Todd Furman, Zachary Cohen, Thor Nystrom, and Patrick Everson. So, been a fun show. We got a couple of long shot bets in the old portfolio for Offensive Rookie of the Year with the draft in the rear view. RJ Harvey, 50-1. Caleb Johnson, 50-1. And now we just have to wait for the entire football season to play out, and hopefully we can cash a long shot bet. All right, that's going to do it. I'll be back later this week on VSiN Primetime. Ready, Set, Bet is up next right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.